Super Saiyan is iconic, Super Saiyan 3 is badass, and Super Saiyan 2 is usually overlooked. Even Toriyama forgot the form existed and thought Super Saiyan 3 was actually just Super Saiyan 2 because of it. But I think the middle child of the original Super Saiyan transformations has a lot more to offer than people think, and it's unfairly dismissed if you ask me. Let me just say at the start though, I'll only be using the original manga to discuss this form, so any anime filler scenes or Dragon Ball Z movies like Bojack aren't being considered for this. I won't even use Dragon Ball Super, despite it using the form a good amount and probably making this argument a lot easier for me. Just like I spoke about Super Saiyan 3 in the past, I want to talk about Super Saiyan 2's impact on the story of Dragon Ball. But unlike Super Saiyan 3, I want to talk about why this form works so well for me on many levels. Let's start with point 1, retroactive foreshadowing. If Toriyama had one strength in his writing ability, it would be his mastery over retroactive foreshadowing, and I've seen people downplay this by saying it can't be foreshadowing if it wasn't planned. But 1, that's why it's retroactive. 2, this is a real literary concept a lot of famous authors employed. And 3, I think it's far more impressive than traditional foreshadowing. Being able to make one-off comments that don't mean anything in isolation, but can be picked up at any point in the future is a writing skill that's hard to master even if it's taught. Think of scenes like Goku being called an alien in the first arc of the series, or some Red Ribbon Army soldiers surviving the destruction of the main base. These are vague enough to never be addressed again, but leave just enough room to be brought back up if he wanted to, and he does in both of those cases. This is something I find missing in Dragon Ball Super actually, where things are seemingly set up in a way that they can't be ignored, but they also seemingly are never gonna be handled. Famously, Vegeta's trip to Planet Sadala in Universe 6 is something too direct to be ignored, but it still hasn't happened. Of course, it still could happen in the future of the series, but it's been 10 years since that statement happened, so I think it's fair to question it at this point. Luckily, I think Super Saiyan 2 does utilize retroactive foreshadowing and does so to the form's benefit. So do I think Toriyama had Super Saiyan 2 in mind when depicting both Gohan's rage and untapped inner potential earlier in Dragon Ball Z? Not at all. But reframing these scenes to make them tied to the initial emergence of Super Saiyan 2 leads to the form feeling like it could easily exist in the world of Dragon Ball, helping to make it not feel like an ass pull and more like a resolution to an already established plot point. Just for the sake of comparison, one of my main issues with Super Saiyan 3 is it felt like it wasn't the path Goku would take when evolving Super Saiyan further, because it's the opposite of what we see him strive for in the Cell Saga. With Super Saiyan 2, we have Gohan getting a massive power boost and being unable to fully control himself emotionally in this state, which is something the story has been building towards since Gohan's introduction. So having Super Saiyan 2's first appearance directly tied to Gohan's history helps ground the form in the foundation of Dragon Ball Z, especially when in conjunction with my next point, the very intentional foreshadowing of Super Saiyan 2. You see, everyone focuses on Gohan when discussing this form, which leads to people saying the form isn't foreshadowed, but Gohan's potential is. So why even make it a new form at all? Well, that's just not true. So let me give you a big refresher on Super Saiyan 2's specific foreshadowing. After Trunks warns Goku about the androids, that information is relayed to the rest of Earth's warriors so they can all train for the 3 years to prepare themselves for the android threat. During this time, Vegeta trains in the newly made gravity room at Capsule Corp. Vegeta's spaceship training is anime filler if you didn't know, but keep it in mind for later because it will be important. Anyway, as Vegeta trains in the gravity room, he swears he will go beyond even the Super Saiyan. At the time, you could maybe take this to mean that he simply wants to surpass Goku, as Goku is the Super Saiyan, but knowing he's already met Trunks at this point, who's another Super Saiyan, makes me think he means surpassing the form itself, making this the first piece of intentional foreshadowing for Super Saiyan 2 in the entire series, as he seeks to surpass the transformation of legend. Later on, after Vegeta is defeated by Android 18, he flies away and reflects on his own power and beliefs. The Super Saiyan was supposed to be invincible. He begins to wonder if he's limited by his own biology, if flesh would always remain weaker than the power of artificial beings. But he calms down and knows he can surpass them. It just isn't clear how yet. Before Vegeta can figure it out though, he only gets more confused as Piccolo fuses with Kami and Cell appears, both of whom surpass his power as a Super Saiyan as well. But Vegeta resolves himself to do something unheard of. He will transcend the Super Saiyan. And this man is so certain that it's possible, he's adamant that Goku will do exactly the same thing once he wakes up. And somehow he's right. In the very same chapter, Goku wakes up from the heart virus and says he won't fight again until he transcends the Super Saiyan. So both Goku and Vegeta independently start to see beyond what's commonly called the Super Saiyan wall. But this isn't a sure thing. Goku thinks Vegeta's extended use of the time chamber may mean that transcending Super Saiyan isn't actually possible, because despite Vegeta's ego, he still is a genius, and it shouldn't take him this long to figure it out if it was really possible. Once Trunks and Vegeta do emerge from the time chamber, Trunks is the one to say they surpassed the Super Saiyan wall in the first 2 months of training. But Vegeta wanted to keep training afterwards to further the power gap. This is our first confirmation in the series that Super Saiyan isn't an endpoint, it's a new beginning. But pretty notably, Goku isn't certain Vegeta and Trunks have done it, questioning them even after Trunks flat out said it happened. This immediately shows us how different Goku and Vegeta are in their pursuit of transcending the Super Saiyan before we even see Super Saiyan Grade 2 or Goku and Gohan's training. But Super Saiyan Grade 2 and Grade 3, while clearly incomplete evolutions of Super Saiyan, do still show that you can further evolve the transformation. In the time chamber, Goku shows that the Super Saiyan grades Vegeta and Trunks created aren't the only paths to furthering Super Saiyan, as he quickly realizes their flaws and resigns himself to mastering Super Saiyan. We commonly call this Super Saiyan Grade 4, but I think most people don't realize that Goku actually treats this as a defeat. When saying regular Super Saiyan is the best, he's working with what they already have. He still hasn't overcome the Super Saiyan wall. Even Vegeta treats it as Goku doing the most with what he already has, which is the regular Super Saiyan form, with Trunks wrongly assuming they can transform again beyond that. In the pursuit of transcending Super Saiyan, they all rushed to further transformations when they hadn't mastered the one they currently had. And as powerful as it is, mastering Super Saiyan did not surpass the Super Saiyan wall. It only showed just how tall that wall truly was. So surpassing the Super Saiyan wall wasn't done until Gohan unlocked Super Saiyan 2, a form with no stated weaknesses like the Super Saiyan grades have, and a direct improvement of Super Saiyan in every single way. If we go back into the time chamber for a moment, in the middle of this training to transcend Super Saiyan, we actually get a very important and extremely overlooked line from Goku, who says, "I'm going to reach the state beyond the Super Saiyan. I'm going to be more powerful than anyone. But I want you, Gohan, to be more powerful than me." Clearly, Goku thinks he might be able to become the strongest fighter of his generation, but he thinks that Gohan has the potential to be the strongest fighter overall. Something that becomes true with Super Saiyan 2, but is reinforced by one of the story's core messages, which is point 3. The theme of the Cell Saga. When we find out that no one but Gohan can beat Cell after all this foreshadowing for both him and the soon-to-exist transformation, it's also the first time where Goku isn't finishing the final fight. It's a very clear passing of the torch moment, and thematically, this has been building up since the Future Trunks bonus chapter and the appearance of Cell. You see, in the future timeline, Gohan couldn't protect his world, dying without achieving his potential despite having time to do so. He could never be what his potential allowed him to be. So despite present Gohan being a different person, he has that burden to bear, even referencing his future self when he begins training with Goku. And when Cell first appeared, we learned something pertinent. Cell was created from the DNA of exactly 5 characters: Goku, Piccolo, Vegeta, Frieza, and King Cold. This creature is a physical manifestation of the last generation's strongest fighters. He specifically doesn't have Trunks or Gohan's DNA because in the story, he represents the strongest of what came before. So when Gohan, a character shown to have potential beyond anyone we've seen so far, is able to take on Cell one-sidedly with a new transformation that the geniuses of the last generation couldn't achieve despite their best efforts, it's to show us that he has surpassed those who came before him. The story needed Gohan to surpass Cell, and for him to do it by surpassing the Super Saiyan wall. So in that final beam struggle with Gohan at half power after losing the use of the same arm his future counterpart lost, he gets the encouragement from his father to not only defeat Cell, but also to surpass him, putting his full faith into the power of the next generation, putting his faith in his son. So with all of that backing this form up, why do people not seem to like the form as much as I do? Well, aside from the fact that we can all have opinions, there's some reoccurring reasons that people say. three main ones that I'd like to go over, actually. The first is it being the middle transformation of Dragon Ball Z. For a lot of casual fans, I'm not talking about YouTubers or even people on Dragon Ball Twitter, just people who saw the series once as a kid and a few fights or episodes here and there since. To them, Super Saiyan 3 is a cool transformation, and that's helped by the fact that it's the strongest and final Super Saiyan form of Dragon Ball Z. This isn't a universal rule. There are a lot of hardcore fans that like Super Saiyan 3 a lot more than me, and some more casual fans that dislike it as well. But it's undeniably a popular form, and that's at least partially due to its placement in the series. The same can be said for Super Saiyan. It's the first Super Saiyan form we ever saw, and set such a high standard for transformations going forward that to most people, it's just the GOAT of Dragon Ball forms in general. This leaves Super Saiyan 2 in a weird spot, being the second of 3, so it's easy to overlook it when talking about the best transformations in Dragon Ball Z, especially since it's so tied to Gohan. And the form's association with Gohan is tied to the second point that I see thrown around a lot. People think the form should have remained exclusive to Gohan. It's diminished because Goku and Vegeta get it in the next arc, and I really don't get this one. Is Super Saiyan diminished by Trunks, Vegeta, and Gohan having it in the next arc? Is Super Saiyan 3 diminished because Gotenks gets it the same arc it's introduced? This metric is pretty arbitrary, so I don't think it matters at all, and I actually think for a lot of people, Toei is behind a lot of the work for those feelings. That's because in the manga, we of course see the moment that Goku first turns Super Saiyan, and kind of the moment Gohan does as well, but for Vegeta, Goten, Trunks, and even future Trunks, we don't see them unlock the form in the manga at all. In the anime though, Toei gave us scenes that show or expand on these characters, except for present Trunks, that is. He doesn't get the Super Saiyan Awakening flashback scene for some reason. I said before we'd come back to Vegeta training in space, and that's because for Vegeta, we see Toei misunderstanding that the gravity room Vegeta trains in is literally a room at Capsule Corp rather than a new spaceship. So we get the scene of him in space wallowing over his inferiority in order to transform. For Goten, we're shown his spar with Chi-Chi, and for future Trunks, it's basically an entirely different, and I'd argue better, story than the manga's bonus chapter where he already had Super Saiyan before future Gohan's death. I think these anime-only scenes helped people accept that these characters got Super Saiyan after Goku more easily, and it wasn't just a form of one prophesized being of legend. But for Super Saiyan 2, we don't see how Goku and Vegeta unlock the form, so it's less impactful. And because Super Saiyan 3 does come out of nowhere relatively early in the following arc, Super Saiyan 2 is overlooked, unlike Super Saiyan getting the majority of the Cell Saga after its introduction to be a story focus. Which brings me to the final point. Is Super Saiyan 2 too much like Super Saiyan 1? And I mean that in more ways than one. Obviously, for a lot of people, Super Saiyan 2 looks too visually similar to Super Saiyan. There hasn't been a Super Saiyan 2 design as distinct as Gohan's in the Cell games, but that's only because Toriyama intentionally shaped Gohan's hair as a Super Saiyan in a way that breaks the visual rule we've come to learn through Goku and Trunks, because it's not that different of a shape from his base form hair, meaning that Super Saiyan 2 could push his hair up to create a visual distinction here. And other characters aren't given the same luxury, though you can see a difference in the hair shape if you look close enough. In the Buu Saga, Gohan's Super Saiyan hair is a softer shape overall with no spikes in the back of the hair and 2 bangs, but Super Saiyan 2 adds more spikes to his hair and leaves only 1 bang hanging down. Goku is similar, with his Super Saiyan form having multiple large bangs, while his Super Saiyan 2 has the 1 prominent bang and the flipped up bang that's hard to miss once you see it. Honestly, Toei is part of the reason for a lot of the confusion here as well, as the animators use the wrong hair shapes all the time. Famously, in the Majin Vegeta vs. Goku fight, they keep switching between Super Saiyan 2 and Super Saiyan 1 hair shapes, or there's even a scene of Super Saiyan Blue Goku with the Super Saiyan 2 hair shape in the Tournament of Power. Of course, Vegeta's hair as a Super Saiyan in Super Saiyan 2 is seemingly unchanged outside of possibly becoming spikier, but Toriyama compensated for that with the famous lightning aura that Super Saiyan 2 has exclusively in the original manga, though that feature has made its way to regular Super Saiyan in the more modern works. We could even talk about Dragon Ball Super characters as well, but just using the baseline of less bangs, more spikes, and/or lightning in the aura will probably allow you to see the difference between Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 from now on. Though I do agree, it could be more visually distinct. More importantly than design though, is their narrative similarities. Super Saiyan 2 may not have a prophecy, but its foreshadowing does start with Vegeta thinking he'll be the one to achieve some ultimate Saiyan power. We then get subverted about what the thing being pursued actually is. For Super Saiyan, that's the legend describing the Super Saiyan as someone with insane battle lust and no mercy. For Super Saiyan 2, that's the Super Saiyan grades, going about the path of transcending Super Saiyan in the wrong way. Not to mention, both forms are awakened emotionally to a death during a fight that's beginning to seem hopeless. But this wasn't even new for Dragon Ball at the time. Toriyama had repeated story beats while changing enough to feel distinct many times in the series. I've even spoken about these moments in shorts on this channel. It does seem like a stretch to me to say these are too similar in presentation, since it requires a pretty extreme oversimplification, but I can understand people feeling this broad structure is a bit too similar and is what holds Super Saiyan 2 back for them. For me though, Super Saiyan 2 is one of the greatest transformations in the entire series, with its incredible build-up and narrative execution that might be some of the best the entire series has to offer. Thank you so much to the channel members on the screen behind me right now. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet, and thank you so very much for watching.